NATO is capable of being NATO and shooting down Russian missiles over Ukraine. Russia and Iran, Israel and the world, what's to expect? And what's going on in Kursk as far as we know? These topics in more detail by me, Henry Keane, in UATV English, bringing the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. We cannot ignore, of course, what's going on in the Kursk region of Russia, but we cannot confirm or deny anything. One thing is known without a shadow of a doubt: whatever is happening in the Kursk region, it's a direct consequence of the unprovoked and full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation of Ukraine, of course. Instead of ensuring the safety of its own citizens, the terrorist Kremlin regime busted out with a military aggression against a sovereign neighboring state, Ukraine. The Russian Ministry of Defense and their reserve dogs, who call themselves war correspondents, as usual, lie about that they control the situation in the Kursk region. Well, it is obvious that Russia does not control anything. Otherwise, there will be no need for such an obvious lies. The head of the investigative committee of the Russian Federation, Paistrykin, ordered to initiate a criminal investigation on the fact of the, I quote, attack on the Kursk region. Interesting and vividly marking is the fact such investigations were not opened as a result of the liberation of Kherson by Ukrainian armed forces and those territories that were included in the fake constitution of the Russian Federation as new regions of Russia, like parts of the Kherson region, Zaporizhzhia, Donetsk, Luhansk, and the Autonomous Republic of Crimea. So, de facto, this indicates that the Kremlin regime does not really consider these regions of its own. In easy terms, it is impossible to verify the moment what's actually going on in the region, since there are no sources on the territory of the terrorist country of Russia that can be trusted. There is no point in considering reports from Russian so-called war correspondents as reliable. There is a certain possibility of anything, like the aliens are advancing on Kursk, but this also requires confirmation. We are working on that. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has instructed diplomats to work out within the framework of the Ukraine-NATO Council the possibility of developing a coalition of neighboring states that will help shoot down Russian missiles over Ukrainian land.
We must investigate the technological feasibility of using combat aircraft from neighboring countries to defend Ukraine against Russian missiles aimed at our neighbors. First and foremost, consider the alliance member countries.
Yes, just like Americans shot down Iranian missiles aimed at Israel, our NATO neighbors can easily do the same. This is a defensive countermeasure, not an assault one, so there should be no question but fears of escalation, of course. Like when the war's onwards and lands are annexed and Ukrainian people die on Ukrainian soil, that is okay until it is not an escalation. The Polish foreign minister said that Ukraine's request to shoot down Russian missiles from NATO territory is a matter for discussion. He noted that this is a matter for discussion, adding that the potential shooting down missiles associated with a number of risks. For example, technical ones, he said, concerning the range of these missiles, as well as legal issues. What will happen? He wondered if the missile debris destroys someone's property or causes someone's death. After all, this missile will not disappear into thin air, he said. Oh, and we in Ukraine thought Russian missiles, after being shot down, actually do disappear into thin air. No debris at all. Well, if Mr. Vronsky is right, and this is not the case, well then I guess Poland can just let them fly wherever the Kremlin has sent them as. While it is not Poland, of course. Well, let me remind Mr. Vronsky that President Zelenskyy mentioned that NATO countries could shoot down Russian missiles over Ukraine. Again, over Ukraine, which, as Mr. Vronsky could have already noticed, has been shooting down Russian missiles over its territory for 2.5 years for now, and can confidently tell Poland and anyone else in the world the debris of a Russian missile is a way better option than the Russian missile itself. If Russian missiles had been hitting Poland for the past 2.5 years, Mr. Vronsky probably would have certainly noticed that. But what is this escalation to Western partners, I wonder? Putin is waving his nuclear gavel, and all we ask in Ukraine is to shoot down his missiles that murder our civilians. And yet we have to carefully ask for a measure that literally costs our partners and allies nothing, in turn giving them a real-time air defense combat test. So why not? Why every time we hear about things that improve Ukrainian safety, we hear that strange term escalation? Is umbrella an escalation when it rains? Is a flak jacket an escalation when you're under shelling? Is shooting down a missile of an aggressor country reigned by an indicted dictator who steals your children, is that an escalation? Escalation is the Kremlin invented term to use at any given moment when Ukrainian armed forces are actually getting stronger. So as soon as you hear fears of escalation, you hear nothing but Putin's fears voiced by those overcautious politicians, voluntarily or not. So don't get me wrong, I'm all about safety and cautiousness. This is exactly why I agree to Zelensky's NATO can easily do it, while losing nothing and winning a lot, testing its air defense at work, gaining safety in Europe, as Russian super precise missiles from time to time hit other countries, not only Ukraine, just by the way. And what is utmost important, Europe gets itself respect back, actually, practically and solidly defending human values, and not just talking about it. An answer for impudence. Iranian president promised Russia to take revenge on Israel. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, at a meeting with Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu, said that Iran intends to respond to Israel for the murder of Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh. I think Iran should not rush too much. There is a new Hamas chief appointed recently, right? So maybe it's worth waiting a bit and just taking revenge on Israel for both at once. Because I have no doubt about what will happen to the next Hamas chief. And I'm not sure how many Hamas chiefs Hamas actually has there, left to spend them that often and that carelessly. Perhaps that is what exactly why Putin, the head of another terrorist country, warned Iran about. Putin a peace lover? Not really. Russia cannot deny Iran of military assistance, as it relies heavily on Iranian drones for the war in Ukraine. Iran in turn needs additional military capabilities as it prepares to attack Israel. Well, the key question is how the Russians can reassure Tehran while not compromising its ties with Israel. And if Russia works with Iran on a barter basis, then it will try to sell weapons to other countries after the collapse of military exports. Things are not going well in Russia, indeed, judging by the fact that the authorities have decided to change the format of Russian main military technical exhibition, Army, after its absolute failure last year. This year, the main goals of this event will be, according to the Russians, I quote, consolidation of the efforts of developers and manufacturers of products for military special operations, promotion of Russian weaponry on foreign markets, as well as demonstration of new solutions developed, taking into account the experience of conducting a special military operations. That is against the backdrop of this very experience. I guess last year the event ended in huge failure. Delegations from more than 60 countries came to it, to whom Russian Tsar Putin promised a wide line of modern models of weapons. However, in the end, the volume of foreign contracts concluded by Russian military turned out to be more than 3 times lower than pre-war levels. Well, this by no means means that Russia is bleeding dry. No, we understand that Russia is a huge country, but a huge country that is trying to look great. What could be more pitiful? That is it for this episode. It was me, Henry Keane, and our team at UATV English, hopefully to bring some, at least, hard truth in easy terms for you out there. Please like, share, and comment. Your voice matters, as it in turn helps Ukrainian voice to be shared worldwide. More to come already tomorrow. Stay safe and tuned. Thank you. Goodbye.